we ready?
Yeah, ready.
We're ready.
Okay, here we are, goal setting and motivation. Right off the top, you probably know with a topic like this, it's not rocket science. But I say that, and yet we all know that there's a big gap between many areas of our lives where we are and where we want to be. And we see it in other people's lives as well. So there does seem to be this challenge in the difference between setting a goal and achieving a goal. And sometimes that gap is pretty big. Now, speaking to this group, a lot of you are in a great environment where it is very supportive, there's a lot of accountability, and a lot of you are probably achieving great things, and that's awesome. So my goal today is to give you a couple of practical tips to help you, either with goals that you're setting here or in other areas of your life. Some takeaways, some helpful nuggets that hopefully you can take home with you and apply, for any goals that you're setting in the future. I want you to think about the last 6 months, and I want you to think about an area of your life where you learned something, or completed something, achieved something, or made progress in something within the last 6 months. Tell me when you got to that. Are you willing to share?
Sure.
Okay. Work. What about work?
So we had a project to do. We had a big project to do. Our computer system and someone else's computer system.
Okay.
We have lists of tasks that we need to do, so we have a list of tasks, break it up into a whole bunch of little things, we do one at a time, deliver something on a regular basis so that you have a sense of accomplishment, finish something, finish this part, and then you add it all up, and then the project's done. So that seems like a huge insurmountable task that it takes 4 months to do.
Yes.
It's compressed, could be done, parallelized.
And what was your role in this project?
Manager.
Okay. Yeah. And so you set that goal, you went through that process, you achieved that goal. How did it feel? Excellent. Check it off the list, feels good. Awesome. Anybody else? Something you learned, improved on, achieved during the last 6 months? Anything? I think you guys are giving yourself credit. Maybe you can only do one push-up when you started, and now you can do 5.
Did anyone meet any people for the challenge this summer?
Did anyone meet your map goal?
We did.
You did.
Yeah.
1,500, 7,500 each?
Yeah. So let me ask then the opposite. Are there things in the last 6 months that you wanted to achieve, that you planned to follow through on, those types of things that didn't happen? Do we have examples of those things?
Oh, yeah.
I have one of those.
That's an easier category for you?
Yeah.
So what is something that you didn't accomplish?
Purging my wardrobe.
Okay. So that was a goal that you had and it just didn't happen?
Partially.
Okay.
And then life happens, and then other things take priority.
Okay, so it went on the back burner. Someone else?
I said I was going to stretch every day to get better flexibility. It lasted like 3 or 4 days.
Didn't happen.
No.
Yeah. And we're pretty used to this, right? This does happen a lot. You tend to do something and something either gets in the way or something happens and you don't get to where you're going. So when we do set a goal, whether it's an official goal or whether it's a small goal, and you actually achieve it, how does that feel? Great, right? Okay, and opposite, when you plan to do something and your intentions are good, but you fall short of achieving that goal, how does that feel? Not so good, right? I told you this isn't rocket science. I didn't. So I think we'd be safe to summarize and say that success is motivating, right? We feel good. We like the way it feels when we do something. And failure is what? What word should I use?
Reprehensible.
That seems a little harsh. Discouraging. Yeah. You kind of lose your steam, right? Now, I actually want to add to this, not just this word success, but I want to add perhaps progress. Okay? Because this word, I'm going to put an asterisk there because we want to flesh out what actually is success and what it looks like. So if success or progress in the right direction is motivating and failure is discouraging, therefore, what do we want more of?
Success.
Success. And it makes sense then, doesn't it, that success breeds success. That if you experience success, the likelihood of you setting another goal and achieving it actually goes up, right? Rather than if you continue to fail, you're more likely to be discouraged and either not attempt it or to give up more easily. So ideally, what we want to do is to set ourselves up for success as much as we possibly can. What I'm going to share with you today is from my research, from reading, it's from working with my clients in my life coaching practice, and it is also very much from my personal experience. I, like all of you, have a lot of experience in having some success in achieving goals, but also experiencing a lot of failure in attempting goals. So I brought something with me today. I decided to bring my running clothes. And why did I bring my running clothes? Well, first of all, I've completed 8 full marathons, a number of half marathons, 10Ks, around the day races, and so on. I wanted to bring these today though for a few reasons. One, I wanted you to know that I understand what it's like to set a big goal, a goal that requires a lot of planning, a goal that requires a lot of work, and be able to follow that through. I also wanted you to know that I know what it feels like to want to quit. And I mean want to quit badly. And I don't even just mean during the training process, I mean during the event itself, where the desire and urge to quit is overwhelming and you have to overcome it like again and again and again in order to finish. And I also wanted to bring these to remind myself, to remind you, that success, and that's why I put an asterisk on it up there, is a perspective. It means different things to different people. And I have a funny story to share. So, several years ago, how many people have heard of the Horror Hill Race? Have you heard of it? It's in our area, but it's kind of out more like Heidelberg area. I didn't even realize, I Googled it today, and it's still in effect. I didn't even know they were still doing it. But early in my running career, so to speak, not really for a hobby, I decided to do this Horror Hill Race. And at the time, I think it was 15K, which was a pretty big deal for me at the time. And out in that Heidelberg area, like where the Camp Heidelberg is, and like there's some nasty hills out there, like brutal hills. So this was a very hilly race, and I never really liked it. But I decided to do this race, and my brother-in-law, who is a big-time, serious runner, really good runner, decided to do it as well. So it was in the fall, the weather was crappy, windy and cold, and I think maybe a little bit rainy, and there wasn't great attendance at this race. So we show up, we set out, we're out there running, and I'm not doing too hot. And actually, people keep passing me, and I end up further and further and further at the back. By the end of the race, the only thing behind me is the ambulance, trailing me in the back. So not super, encouraging. It's me and the ambulance. So anyway, I came in that race. That is the only race, thankfully, that I've ever been dead last in the race. This is the funny part. So when it came, we decided to stay around, probably because it was so freezing cold and everything. They had a little building there, they had an awards ceremony. So we go in, we have some refreshments, and they're giving out awards. And sometimes they do draw prizes, so it's cool to hang around. So they're giving out the different age category awards. And I came in first place. So not only did I get a medal, okay, I got a bottle of wine, and I got a gym bag. Okay? My brother-in-law that I told you who did the race, he came in 4th overall. He got nothing. So, who really succeeded that day? Right? Definition definition of success. So I just think that is so funny. It's not a story I like to tell because it's sort of embarrassing to talk about being dead now stories. So, what is a goal? How would you describe it by asking, what's a goal?
Something you want to achieve.
Something you want to achieve. Yeah, absolutely. The definition I found says a desired result or outcome. But there's a point I want to distinguish about it, and this is something I work with sometimes when I'm working with clients, and that is there's a difference between a goal and like a want or a wish. Because there's a lot of things in my life that I wish for, or wouldn't it be great if, like wouldn't it be great if I were a millionaire? Sure, that'd be great. Wouldn't we all, who wouldn't want to be a millionaire, right? But a goal is something that you choose to commit to and put in the desired effort or work required to get there. That's different from just a wish or a want. And I think sometimes we're not clear on those things. And where you see this really kick in is New Year's resolutions. People are often not very thoughtful in their New Year's resolutions. It's like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great to, whatever, quit smoking? Wouldn't it be great to lose 10 pounds? But they're not actually thinking through the work required, the commitment to get to that desired result. So it's more of like a wish. Sure, it would be great if it just happened, but are you ready to commit to it? So that's something to think about when we're trying to set a goal. So let's assume that I have a goal and that I am willing to put the required effort into it. What's next? Are you familiar with the quote? Actually, I might use someone here. It's going to change it. But whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Are you familiar with this quote? This quote, Henry Ford? I don't know how much thought you've ever given to it, but belief is actually extremely powerful when it comes to goals and achieving things. Who's heard of the 4-minute mile barrier? Psychological barrier. Familiar with it? Okay. Good. I'm going to tell the story. So I read legend says thousands of years, who knows, but for a long, long time, man tried to run and break the 4-minute mile barrier. And it came to a point up into the 1940s, and they decided it was actually impossible. I read that people tied themselves to bowls and all kinds of things, like to try to speed themselves up, did all sorts of things, couldn't do it. Nobody could break the 4-minute mile barrier. That is, until someone did. So in 1954, Roger Bannister ran a race and he broke that 4-minute mark. He did it in 3:59 something, okay? What's fascinating is not that he did it, it's that after doing it, within a year, someone else did it, and then after that, many more people did it, and I was reading now that some high school kids can do it. So did the human body actually change that much that, humans couldn't do it before and then humans can do it now? They don't think so. They attribute that barrier to a mental barrier. That when people accepted the belief that they couldn't do it, they truly couldn't do it. It became a physical limitation, the mental barrier. So belief is really important when we're talking about goal setting, because if you don't believe you can do it, you probably can't do it. The odds are totally against you. So what can you do to increase your level of belief?
I'm not an artist.
I'm going to believe I'm an artist.
Yeah.
But this, in case you didn't know, this is a bucket. Does it pick it up?
Yeah. So just put some stuff.
This is the self-belief bucket. We all have one. It goes by different names. I'm going to call it this for tonight. So basically, it is your belief in yourself, your I can do it level. And it's different for all of us, okay? So what happens is, when you, look at how crooked my water is. I don't know. The water's
Your bucket's on an angle.
yeah, so that's just it. It's on it, yeah. We'll just forget about it. When you say to someone else or to yourself that you're going to do something, so you commit. So whether it's, I'm going to get my laundry done today, or whether it's to somebody that you're going to meet them or you're going to do something, when you say you're going to do it and you actually do it, whatever it is, then you're filling that bucket. because you're being true to yourself. You can trust yourself. You're saying, I said I was going to do this and I did it, right? So it's not just to others, it's to you. This is an internal thing. On the contrary, if you tell yourself or someone else you're going to do something and you don't do it, you actually drain or deplete your self-belief bucket. So those couple of, by not finishing the purging, you actually, you had some drain in the bucket and you feel discouraged, right? You can kind of feel that level. Oh gosh, I meant to do this, I wanted to do it, I thought I could do it, I didn't do it, right? So one of the ways that you can build up the amount in your self-belief bucket is by choosing small, achievable things and doing them. So not starting out with huge goals, but starting out with very simple things and keeping your word to yourself. So if somebody's, I often say balance, but the amount in the bucket is low when they're starting to work with me, I say don't set big goals to start. You can set big goals later on, but set really small, achievable goals because you want to get that amount up. You want to get that bucket full because that's going to fill your confidence. And at that point, if you attempt something big and don't make it, you've got lots of room left in there. You're not going to be running on empty, okay? So there's people probably here at the gym regularly that do have they've done a lot of things, they've achieved a lot of goals, they have a lot in their bucket. They can set really big goals because there's just a lot there to work with and they're not going to end up with an empty bucket. Does that make sense? Following me, tracking with me? Okay. So we have a goal that we believe is achievable. How can we set ourselves up for success? So first, you actually, it sounds again really basic. You need to get clear on what it is that you want. What do you want? What actually is your goal? And this is where sometimes people start to get into the how. You don't need to get into the how at this point. You just need to think about what it is you want. And number 2 is really strongly linked with number 1, and that is figuring out why you want to achieve this goal. What about it is important to you? This is probably one of the most important pieces. So we all come to the gym. So we're all working out. We're all doing a lot of similar things, but you know what? We're here for different reasons. Some people come because their doctor said you need to do this because of whatever condition. Maybe it's diabetes, maybe it's heart issues, maybe it's whatever, and that's why. Some people are here because they like a challenge. They want to see how far can I push myself, how strong can I get, what's possible for me. Some people are here because they're training for something. They're training for an event or something like that. Some people are here because of weight loss or appearance or they want to get toned. The reasons are very, very different, but you need to know what your reasons are because you need to connect with those reasons. Those are the things that are going to pull you toward your goal. You need to stay connected with the why, the reason that you're even attempting this goal. There are 2 types of motivation. There's intrinsic and extrinsic. Are you familiar with these terms and do you know the difference? Can somebody give me an example?
Extrinsic, some is payment.
Okay. Payment, reward, anything external. Okay. Intrinsic?
I want to do this because.
Okay. Something to do with you inside, internal, your value systems. Which one do you think is more powerful between the 2?
The reward.
Actually, no. Intrinsic motivators are far more powerful and lasting. And in fact, I just heard this new study. There was, I can't exactly remember what the children were doing. I think it was children, if somebody dropped something and they were picking it up and bringing it to them. Okay, so this was a psychological test. So, and they were doing this quite naturally. Okay, they started rewarding the children for doing what they did naturally and the behavior decreased. So it actually had the opposite effect. So things that we value for some reason internally are far more powerful. And that's why it's important for you to identify what is it about this thing that's important to me? Why do I want it? And that's why sometimes goals like I want to lose weight, because of a cruise coming up, may not be powerful enough. Then the temptations may be more powerful enough. But if it is around some deeper thing that has more long-term meaning for you, you'd be more likely to be successful around it. Okay, so for an example, when I set a goal in the first place to run a marathon, why did I set a goal to run a marathon? Well, first of all, I didn't start with that goal. That would be a big goal, and then likely this would bottom right out, right? That's a big goal. It started with, actually when I started running, my first goal was to not die. No joke. You know, my sister-in-law and I started together. We ran like one block, and we said, how do people do this? This is awful. We hate it, you know, and we thought, where's the ambulance for you to go to hospital? So that was goal number one. And then we thought, okay, let's sort of keep with it and see what we can do. So we did our first 5K, and then we did a 10K, and so on. The other reason that I had a bit of a draw towards running is because my father was a runner. And when I was young, we would go and watch my father run marathons. And actually, during his running career, he ran a total of 36 marathons, plus a number of other races. So seeing that, there was sort of this draw that I liked that my dad did it, and I wanted to, probably there was some, you know, desire to make him proud of me, right? And it was very cool because before he stopped running a few years ago, some arthritis in his knee. We actually got to participate together in 5. So 5 of my marathons I ran in the same race with my dad, which is pretty cool. So that had great meaning to me. So there you can see some intrinsic value going on. I didn't get an award or a reward. I got sore muscles and the desire to quit, lots and lots. So it had to be that inner driver kind of keeping me going. The third thing is make a plan to reach the goal. Obvious, right? What are the steps required to get there? I'm going to pause for a second and jump over here and see if you guys can fill these in for me. The likelihood of somebody completing a goal, if they hear an idea, what percentage? What's your guess? They hear an idea, how likely are they to complete it?
5.
That was good. That would be more likely. The research says 10. I think that's generous. Okay. Consciously decide to adopt an idea. Okay, now you're too generous. 25. Okay. Decide when they will do it. That kind of time piece.
30.
Close. 40. Plan how they will do it. Which is the point we're at now. 50. 50. Going out here. Here's the pattern. Commit to someone else.
90.
Around the goal.
90.
Not quite yet. You're getting there though. If it's just at that level, 65. However, if they commit to someone else and have a specific accountability follow-up appointment, sort of like what they do here when you're going to weigh in or measure or right? That idea. Any ideas? 95. Bingo. So you can see right here how to increase the likelihood of you completing a goal. So, and the step we're on right now is this, which is a part of it, right? Plan. One of the things we sometimes forget about when we're planning is pre-planning for obstacles. So we'll think, oh, okay, so I'm going to start an eating plan, a diet, a cleanse, whatever, right? But you don't factor in certain things that you may encounter. So I know a couple years ago I did this super strict kind of a cleanse thing, and before I even began, I got my calendar out, and I thought, okay, what's going on in the next 2 weeks? Looked at it all, and I thought, oh, good God, I have a dinner at an Italian friend's house. This is going to suck big, and it did. Like they had all these guests and put on the full Italian feast. It was horrible. But I pre-planned it, and I phoned ahead. I talked to my friend. I said, please don't be offended. You know, I love your cooking. I wish I could eat it, but I'm doing this thing, and it's only this amount of time, and I have to stick to it. So I actually brought my own food, and it worked. But it only worked because I totally planned ahead for the obstacle. And I tell you right now, if I hadn't done that, there's no way I would have gotten that. There's just no way. So that's a big piece of it. It's like if you're going to go on a trip and you have a spare tire in case you get a flat tire, right? It's that type of idea. You want to plan ahead for any obstacles that you're going to face as much as you can. Okay, something else you want to factor in. You talked about this in your goal earlier. Chunking the goal, okay? So, goals can be overwhelming, right? The beautiful thing is with all of you, you get experience in chunking the goal naturally here. We do it naturally here. So, if you come in and they say, oh, today's workout we're going to do 200 burpees. How many of you go, good God, 200 burpees,
Yeah.
right? Right. So how do you get through it? What do you do mentally?
I do 10. I do
Right.
10 more.
Right. Exactly. Baby steps, kind of chunking. You know what? You don't have to do 200. Right now you got to do 10. That's what you got to do. You finish 10, you catch your breath. What do you got to do next? 10 more. And then what do you got to do?
10 more.
10 more. That's right. And so by chunking it, it makes it like within reach and not so big. And this applies to any type of goal. So you heard him give the example for the work, like they break it down into chunks. You've got to chunk it. In races, for me, it was often water station. I just have to get to the next water station. That's all I got to do. I don't have to worry about the distance or the markers. Let's just get to the next water station. And then we'll take it from there. You've probably heard the expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So those big goals are like elephants, one bite at a time. Okay, the second one. People often don't factor this in, and this one is really important if your balance in your bucket is not very full. Okay, so let's say I differentiate between an end goal and what I call a step goal. So the end goal is like the 200 burpees, or the end goal is the 3 months down the road work project. The step goals are the goals in between, the daily or weekly goals that move you toward that goal, okay? So let's say my end goal is to lose 20 pounds. That's what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chunk that goal, and I've decided, okay, it's realistic for me to set a goal to lose 2 pounds a week. We would agree. That's a general, realistic goal, right? Okay. So this is my goal. And this is me at the beginning of the week. So that's the end of the week. So I come to the gym 5 times that week and I work really hard. I drink my water like I'm supposed to. I follow my eating plan. I do everything right. Is it possible that I could do all the right things and not lose 2 pounds a week?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Sadly, yes. So what have I just experienced?
Discouragement.
Yeah, I failed, right? I didn't meet my goal. My goal was lose 2 pounds. Maybe I'm down 1.5 pounds. Maybe I'm down a pound. I'm discouraged because I didn't meet my goal. Okay. So let's try a different approach. Let's say instead, I actually make my behaviors the goal. So my behaviors are, my goal is I'm going to go to the gym 5 days this week. I'm going to drink, 8 glasses of water a day. I'm going to follow my eating plan. So I do all of those things like I just did in the other example, but what did I just experience?
Euphoria.
I just succeeded, right? I achieved everything I set out to do. My self-belief bucket goes up because I did it. The difference is I have control over the factors of my outcome. I don't always have control over the short-term results. In the long term, if I keep doing these things, I will get to my 20 pounds. But maybe I can't predict the timing perfectly. Maybe it takes me 12 weeks instead of 10, or 15 weeks instead of 10. I'll get there. But if I continue to focus on my behaviors and make my goals around the things that I can control, then I can, what I talked about earlier, set myself up for success. Rather than feel the defeat of, oh my gosh, I'm doing all the right things and it's not working, which actually isn't true because I lost weight. It's just that my measurement is here and I landed here. But this is a common mistake we make in focusing on these things. In sales, it could be around results rather than, okay, if you know that it takes 100 calls to make 10 sales or something, so focus on making 100 calls. It'll end up averaging out, but maybe 1 week you do only make 9 sales, but then maybe the next week you make 11. Like it will end up evening out. But focus on the behaviors because then you can experience success and set yourself up for success. One other thing is, even sometimes when you do this, something may happen. Maybe I caught a cold, or maybe I was sick, or this morning when there was so many accidents on that highway that I only made it took me an hour to get to the gym, and I only got in half my workout. So things can happen even when your goals are on the behaviors, and you could kind of experience some failure. So then what do you do? Then you can change the way that you're looking at it. One of my favorite quotes by Edison is, "I haven't failed, I found 1,000 ways that don't work." And what's amazing about that perspective is, if he didn't have that perspective, he actually wouldn't have invented the things that he did. Because think about the whole process of inventing. It's a process of failure after failure after failure after. Actually, creating anything new is like that. Chefs, like they have their whole career is failure, right? Trying something doesn't work, fix it. But if you don't think of it that way, if you think about it as an attempt in trying to figure out what is going to work, right? And just change your perspective around it, that can make it less painful. So when that does happen, don't let it derail you, but reframe the way that you're looking at the situation. So even in the other example, think, hey, you know what? I was up that 1.5 pounds before, and now I'm down 1.5 pounds. So that's progress. So, way to go. Try again. And get right back on course. Okay. Summary. Okay, the first thing you need to do, just to review, is answer the what question when you want to set a goal. What do you want to do? Get really clear on it. What's your goal, your desired outcome, and write it down. That's something that so many leadership and success gurus talk about, is writing down your goals. Get them in somewhere. Number 2, answer the why. Why is this important to you? Remember, we talked about the difference between intrinsic values rather than external rewards. What is it? What about it is important to you? Get really, really clear on that. Write that down as well, and think about what it will feel like when you achieve it. So some people do this in different ways. Some people will, if it is maybe, I want to fit into these pants, down the road, that's the goal. They may have a picture on the fridge or something like that, something that helps you visualize. And visualization is something that Olympic athletes and elite athletes use on a regular basis, right? It has to do with connecting with why it's important and the belief piece by envisioning it ahead of time. Answer the how. So we've answered the what, the why, the how. How am I going to reach this goal? Create a plan. Create your step goals. Focus on the things that are within your control rather than things that are outside of your control. Identify obstacles. Come up with solutions. Don't go to the dinner. Here's another one I didn't mention yet. Start with a trial period. So sometimes if you're starting something new, a new exercise program, a new anything, start with a week. I'm going to put this in place for a week. Because at the end of the week, then you can reevaluate and tweak if something's working or not working for you. That goes with an exercise plan. It can go with an eating plan. Some of the things you were talking about earlier, Bob, with eating, like working out, you try it and maybe, you're not eating enough. So you got to eat more. So you got to tweak it and reevaluate. So start with a trial period. Create accountability, like we talked about right here. That happens, again, very naturally here, but if it's a goal outside of here, talk to a friend or somebody and have them set an accountability date where they're going to check up on you. So, check in with me next Friday at 2 o'clock. If you haven't heard from me, ask how I'm doing on this and such and such. And finally, keep the what and the why in your face. So, if you've got that goal, either whether it's in the form of a picture or whatever, have something to remind you of that goal, to kind of keep you on track and keep you moving towards it, because it is sometimes easy to get distracted, get things out of the way. By the way, I didn't mention this either, but sometimes situation may change and something that is a priority may not be a priority anymore because of a change in circumstances, and that's okay. What would make you feel better would be to intentionally park it. So rather than feeling defeated, to say to yourself or to someone else, you know what, I had planned to do this, but there's some other things right now that I recognize are more important. Because when you set the goal, you set it with what you know at that time. You don't always know what's coming. So it's okay sometimes to park a priority and do it later. I'm gonna park this for now, and I'm gonna reevaluate or revisit it at this time. And then kind of that guilt is gone because you're just deciding to do it rather than letting it dictate for you. Finally, this is a big one. Acknowledge your progress. All progress, and celebrate it. Celebrate your progress. And I use the word progress and not success on purpose. So all the little steps. I know for me, I've learned this and I practice it. So otherwise, sometimes when I come to the gym, if I didn't do this, I'd probably be discouraged because there's certain things that I have goals around that I haven't achieved yet. But there's other things where I think, hey, you know what? My flexibility has increased. My mobility has increased. Noticing those things, acknowledging them, talking to somebody about them. Those things keep you going so that you feel the success, feel the progress, feel the happiness, or else it would just be discouraging, right? So learn to acknowledge progress, and it's not something we do naturally. Interestingly, when I asked you guys at the beginning about goals achieved or goals not achieved, you had a way easier time identifying goals not achieved. And you know what? I don't actually believe it. I don't believe you. I actually believe you've achieved way more than you're giving yourself credit for, but you're just not used to looking for it. You're not used to looking for the progress. You're used to looking at that gap. You're used to looking at that half pound instead of the 1.5 pounds that you achieved. So actually, if that's your biggest takeaway today, learn to look for the progress, the success, because that is going to help you set the next set of goals and achieve them. That's all I got, people.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you said you did that Italian dinner thing, and you called ahead and were like, don't be offended. Like, I always feel so bad doing that. Like, I go to my mother-in-law's and I know we never have, like she cooks good, don't get me wrong, but it's good. It's tasty.
Yeah.
So I always feel bad, like, bringing my chicken and stuff. So I try not to every time, but I want to every time. So, like, how do you, like, where do you draw the line? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and where do you offend people? I guess it's just, do people get offended?
Oh, I'm sure they do. And that would be something where you need to decide. That's up to you and your values. Do you care more about whether or not you offend somebody, or do you care more about whether you stick to your game plan? I would say though, on a normal basis, I follow way more the 80-20 rule, so I have room for meals out. In that case, that fell in a 2-week mega strict thing. Like, it was one of those all or nothing things. Like, if you blow it, you gotta start over. And I'm like, I am not starting over. So that was super strict. Otherwise, what I would probably do is factor in, I try to give myself, even when I'm being really good, I try to give myself like one cheat meal in a week, right? And so then the planning comes into play though, because then you don't have it any other time, so that when you go, that can be your cheat meal. So then you can still be, on program, you're planning it, but that's the one that you're not losing ground.
Yeah,
That's
just
like
eat
my
lighter.
parents and their
Yeah,
parents.
I know.
It's hard to make a choice.
So rotate around who you bring food to. So
Yeah.
sometimes.
And I'm only offending some
another
people
way.
once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
in a
Offer to cook. There you go.
Yeah, that's
Offer to bring something.
Yeah, I'll bring grilled chicken and
Yeah,
I'll
it's
stand
tricky though.
salad.
It's tricky. For sure.
So when you set a goal and you achieve that goal, how do you go about, do you have to set another goal to maintain? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
I think there's different types of goals. There is very specific. I didn't talk
Yeah,
tonight
some
about
goals
SMART
come to an
goals,
end.
and that was kind of on purpose. SMART goals have a place, and they're very important, and they're strategic, and they follow that strategic, measurable, achievable, realistic timeline. But I recognize that actually some of the goals that I have fall more into the category of what I call now a system. So right now, my coming to the gym. I don't have necessarily at this moment a specific goal. I'm not saying I won't set another one soon, but I have this overall system that I want to continue to have good and improving health and strength and flexibility. Like, it's just a big kind of overarching thing. So, and I know that the behaviors that contribute, that I would call it a trajectory goal. That's what I would call it. So I want to be moving in that trajectory. And there's certain behaviors that if I keep following them, will keep moving me in that trajectory. But it doesn't necessarily have, right now, a specific arrival. I just want to keep doing things, keep getting stronger, keep getting more flexible, keep, you know what I'm saying? And along the way, I probably will. Well, whenever we have a challenge, then I set a specific goal in the midst of my trajectory goal. So, you know, burn 10,000 reps, or, you know, do this, or do the challenge in this amount of time, or do more burpees in 90 seconds. So I'll have a lot of like mini goals in the process of my trajectory goal.
I think we need to, as a group or society, emphasize trajectory goals a lot more than we do. Like,
Yes.
we see it here all the time.
Yes.
Very good at those, okay, I'm losing 5% of this challenge. But maintenance-wise, it's like, okay, I lost 5% here, but guess what? Then the next 3 months I gained 40 of that.
Yes,
And
yes.
It's not, it's harder for someone to maintain because they don't have that excitement of this
Yes.
particular goal and this particular date instead of
Right.
that trajectory, lifelong, subliminal.
Yep. Yep. And some of that has to do with tapping into that intrinsic. So that person right now might be more linked to the extrinsic goals,
Yeah.
or the extrinsic rewards, right? But if they can't find, they need to find the intrinsic value in order to maintain for the long term. And that will keep them moving in that direction.
And how do you go about finding them?
Asking
Because
your,
there's so many goals, right? Everybody wants to achieve so many goals.
right.
You know, I guess you have to
Um,
figure out which one is more important.
So honestly, if I asked you some questions, if there were some things you wanted to do, and I said, how badly do you want that, right? And you were to start to tell me. So I had a client a while back. Well, no, he didn't end up becoming one. He called me, and we were talking on the phone, trying to decide if coaching was a good fit for him. So, oh, I want to make some changes in my life. I want to. Okay, so we chatted a little bit. I said, so how committed are you to make change? Like, give me out of 10. He said, 6. I said, call me when you're at 8 or 9. Because he's not ready. Like, he doesn't really want it. He's not going to put the effort in. So how badly do you want it? And then trying to figure out what it is that actually it's about for you. Because even if we were all to say, you know, everybody wants to lose weight or gain muscle or something in that regard, right? But why? Why? What's it honestly about for you? Is it a health reason? Is it because, you know, when you were growing up, you know, you had a parent that obsessed about weight? Is it like the reasons beneath the surface are the things that are going to tap into that, you know, intrinsic thing, and also decide whether the motivation for the goal is actually a healthy motivation or not healthy motivation for why you're wanting something. And that's a journey you kind of just have to dig and get in touch with. What is this about for me? What is this really about for me?
I think as a mom, it's taking time for you, like as a Sarah, you're a mom now, but as a woman, that's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're always looking after everyone else, and you're working or whatever you're doing. So that's we're all tossing too many balls in the air. and
Yeah, for
you need
sure.
to take some time for yourself.
Yeah, and that's a great reason to do something, is to prioritize self-care, because it's so important. Yeah. Role modeling is another one. You know, if you want to role model health for your kids,
Yeah.
you know, not just the negative body image stuff that's out there, but actual, you know, care for yourself. So girls, am I every 2 weeks?
I think so. Thursday night after the gym. We're going out, ladies. No, That's,
As long as it fits within all your goals.
yeah,
That's
we're
right.
only allowed
That's
one
your cheat
drink and one
It's
small
true, there are
dessert.
competing
Those are
goals.
tricky.
Yeah.
There are.
Social is so hard with health.
It is. It absolutely is. And then you have to, yeah.
Try
Those
to-
are the tough decisions in life when two things that you hold that, like two of your values conflict. That's where you have a tough decision to make. And it happens all the time. Are you honest with somebody about feedback, or do you care more about that or more about hurting their feelings? Like, which one? And then you decide, are you going to be honest, or are you going to kind of beat around the bush and not be honest because you care more about their feelings? You know, those things happen all the time. And you need to, that's an individual thing to sort out.
Yeah. Yes, that's awesome. That's good.
Good
Good to see you.